Welcome, listeners, to another episode of From Breakup to Breakthrough, sponsored by the Riley Divorce and Family Law Firm. I'm your host, Linda Cusano, and today's episode is particularly close to the heart for many who have embarked on the challenging journey of divorce. Divorce is a profound life transition, often accompanied by a myriad of emotion and complexities. Today, we delve into a topic that resonates with many parents: how to have a child focused divorce. Our guest, Linda, is not only a seasoned professional recruiter, but more importantly, a dedicated mom who has navigated the delicate terrain of divorce while keeping her child's well being at the forefront. As we all know, divorce doesn't come with a playbook, and each journey is unique. Linda will share her insights, experiences, and invaluable lessons learned on how to prioritize the needs of the children amidst the challenges of separation. From co parenting strategies to maintaining a healthy emotional environment for the kids, Linda brings a wealth of wisdom to the table. So, whether you're in the midst of a divorce, contemplating one, or simply seeking guidance on fostering a child centric approach in challenging time, this episode is tailored for you. So, without further ado, let's dive into the world of a child focused divorce with our inspiring guest, Linda. This is From Breakup to Breakthrough, sponsored by the Riley Divorce and Family Law Firm.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From Breakup to Breakthrough. I am really excited to introduce today's guest, Linda Cusano. Linda is not only a good friend of mine and a professional mom, she's in the talent acquisition field. Is that
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
And that she works in the Greater Toronto area. And so she's a professional mom who has recently been through divorce, and we've connected. And I have really enjoyed working with Linda. And I remember, on one of our very first conversations, saying to her, I loved the way that she approached her divorce. Linda has two children, both teenagers, and she really approached this from the mindset of, I want to do this in the most child focused way. I want my kids to be okay. And I thought that was a really, really beautiful approach. I just loved her mindset. So I'm really excited to have her on today to be talking about specifically how to have a child-focused divorce. So welcome, Linda. Thank you
Thank
for
you
being here.
and thank you for having me, Andrea, and thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Yes, I'm really excited. So let's just dive right in because,
Sure.
everybody says, hey, I want to have a child focused divorce. I want to make it about the kids. But most people, they struggle with that because their emotions get involved. There's finances, there's am I going to be able to support myself? You're working full time, there's overwhelm, you're busy. There's so many other factors, that you have to deal with when you're going through divorce. What are some of the things that you did personally in terms of really prioritizing the children's needs during the divorce? Like, what are some things that you can tell us that worked for you?
Well, I really, sat down with myself and, took the emotion out of it and really thought about what the purpose of this was, right? If I was unhappy and my ex-partner and I were unhappy in this relationship, what the point of this of breaking up, of dismantling our marriage was for the greater good of not only me, of not only him, but of our children, right? And so that was the goal. That was to make everyone's lives better, right? And I'm not perfect. Did I lose sight of that goal sometimes? Absolutely. I'm a human being. Did my ex-partner lose sight of that? Absolutely. He's a human being too, right? And what brought me back was, back to, okay, stay calm, stay focused. This is for your children, and this is the point of this, is to everyone to be happier. So that's what kept me grounded. Is every decision I made is, how is this going to impact um, my children? How is this going to impact me? How is this going to impact my children's father as well? Because the point of this is not to make anyone, not to get cruel or let anyone suffer. Because I promise you that if I went into that, that would have come back onto me, right, and to my children. So I always kept that in mind. Is the point of this is that I want everyone to live an authentic, happier life.
That's beautiful.
That was my guidance. That was my North Star.
That is so beautiful. I love that, you really just use that. And you said, sometimes they made mistakes, but I always came back to that, because we're
Yeah,
human and we make
yeah,
mistakes and we can't always help. If we're not emotional, we're not human. Of course, we're gonna,
yeah.
sometimes react emotionally, but you always came back to, how can I make this better for the children? That is a really beautiful statement. And I just think that is so wonderful that you've been able to do that. So what have been some of the ways? Because I mean, obviously there's going to be conflict, in terms of scheduling things and,
Hmm.
when are the kids seeing dad? When are the kids with you?
Yeah,
And, you're both busy professionals.
yeah.
How have you managed to sort of minimize some of that conflict and really focus on, having a positive co-parenting relationship?
Well, I can only take, I'm only in charge of me. So that's what another thing is, um, is I can only be in charge of what I'm able to say yes to and what I'm able to work with. So when we were in good space, my ex-partner and I, we put together just, a general schedule, right? And it worked well at the time. It may not work in the future, but it works now, right? Based on his schedule and my schedule. And I got my children's input as well. Um, you know, as much as they could, meaning this is what your dad and I have scheduled in terms of pickups and drop offs and sleeping arrangements. If you don't feel like coming to my house that week, or if you don't want to go to your dad's house that week, that's okay. There's always space here at either of your place, at either of our homes. This is what works best for me. Now, what's your dad may have other plans, and we have to respect that as well. So it was just in the spirit of what is going to make my kids' life um, easier, like what is going to make it easier so they don't feel like they're being pulled. Like I was, we readily shared with them the monthly schedule, which is as consistent as possible, right? If that means every other weekend and days within, that's what it looked like. Then we included them in all the conversations as much as possible. um, and another thing is I did my best to extend, what's the word I'm looking for? That we're human beings, that, one week is going to be, someone's in a pickle, they've got to travel for work. You know, could I be really cruel and say, well, that's too bad. Like, sorry, we wrote this down. And again, did I want to be like that some days? Absolutely. But what would have that accomplished? I would have just driven us further apart in terms of co-parenting, and I would have made my kids feel like, well, oh, are you going to make everything a hassle? Like, does everything have to be horrible? So, yeah, I just extended as much kindness as I possibly could. I didn't go out of my way and, disrupt my life, but I was, I wanted to extend that to their dad. If he asked me, he said I need 5 days in a row. Like, that's not what our current schedule is. And I said, absolutely. Like, there's nothing going on in my that week, so go ahead, right? Because I promise you, this is what I kept saying is, if I wish goodness and kindness, eventually it'll come back to me. But if I wish hatred and discomfort, I'm going to sit with that, and it's going to feel like just disgusting. It's going to feel disgusting. I may have won the upper hand or whatever baloney that is, but eventually you have to sit with yourself and say that was disgusting. That was cruel. And who wants to live with that? Right? The whole point of, again, that kept saying, but the whole point of divorce is to stop the discord, to stop the constant bickering and the fighting. Like, everyone just go on with their lives, and let's just try to find that peace within us. And if I can help someone find that peace by just saying yes, then go ahead, right? Then fine.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And especially, I know you have teenagers. I also have a teenager. Flexibility, I think you
Yeah,
would agree,
that's
is
yeah,
so important, right? Because, yeah, there are going to be days where they want to go to their friends' houses and
yeah,
maybe their friends live closer to you, and they're
yeah,
not near as dad. So it's important that, the kids get to do what they need to do. They want to sleep over somewhere, or, they have a part-time job. My son has a part-time job, so his work schedule can sometimes get in the way of his plans or of my plans. And I think the most important thing for parents is to be flexible. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you've really worked hard at that, on your end at least, of being flexible.
100%. And again, I don't want to make it sound like there's a halo over my head because there's definitely not one. But I just wanted to be able to look them in the eyes, both my kids, and be truthful with them and be authentic and let them know that they are my priority, right? And that no one should have to feel like they're being yo-yoed or they have to choose. Just be honest with yourself, be honest with me, be honest with your dad about what's going on in your life and why you choose to stay at his house or my house or whatever's going on in your life. Just but have the conversation as opposed to walking on eggshells because I don't want that life anymore. And neither do they, and neither do their dad, right? Just have open, honest conversations with each other. And that would sometimes include their dad and I having private conversations saying, hey, this is what, so and so shared with me, one of our children shared with me. Please take this with, all humility and love in my heart. This is why I'm sharing it with you, not to not to have any discord, but to really let you know this is what they're thinking. They may approach you with this, so have an open mind as well. And please share with me if they've shared something with you that you think I should know that I could help heal our relationship, right?
That's
So
really,
yeah,
I was going to say,
the,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it just if I came with it as a you know I'm not going to get anywhere with that. That's in professional life and in any kind of relationship, even if we're not in a romantic, not in a romantic relationship, we're not in a marriage anymore, but I'm still an important relationship for me because he is their father. So
Absolutely.
I came with it with kindness in my heart and with the intention of you know I don't want to have any more discord and I don't want our children to have discord, but this is what they're feeling and they may approach you with this. How can I support? How can I help support you as opposed to making you feel guilty? Because that's not what I want. So I'd always open up the conversations like that. But it took a lot of practice and a lot of mistakes. And then we created boundaries of what worked and what didn't work as well. And it's still evolving. It's still evolving as we speak.
I love that. I think that's really beautiful. And I always say too, like, better to have, the children in two happy homes than one unhappy home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Two happy parents are better than who live separately are better
Yeah.
than two parents who are together but are miserable and are unhappy together because children pick up on these things too.
100%.
Yeah.
I spoke to my son the other day. We've had this tradition forever where we, in December, we just talk about the year and how it went, what our goals are for 2024, and so on and so forth. And I said, so, this was just literally just the other day, and we're at the end of December now. And I said, how would you describe this year? And he said to me, and it was just himself and myself in the car. I was driving him to school. He said, this has been the best year of my life. And I was startled by this because you have to remember we, separated in March and we actually were divorced in September. And I
Yeah.
said, this has been the best year of your life. And I said, that's amazing. Please share. Because I thought you would say, Mom, I'm so, heartbroken. And it was none of that. It was, he's 16 and a half. So he's seen the writing on the wall for many, many years. And he just said everything's just fallen into place. And what I took from that is, well, he's in like open and honest dialogue. We finally told him, we finally told our children, this is what's been going on. This is what you've known for all these years, that we're heading towards divorce, right? And so now that that big elephant, was addressed, it disappeared. The elephant disappeared, and now we're just working on finding our own happiness, right? As a as a divorced family, and as well as just individuals, we're all finding our path to happiness and peace. So um, that gave me such. I was able to breathe when he said that, right? Because he wasn't celebrating. He was just like, things are going well in my life, Mom, and I'm just so pleased, right? Because he's not dealing with two unhappy parents, right? He's now just being able to live the life of a teenager, which is, having friends and going out and playing sports or whatever it is needs to do, instead of thinking, goodness, what kind of trouble is brewing at home when I get home, right?
Absolutely. And that really speaks to, both you and your ex-partner's, ability to keep the kids out, keep the kids separate from this divorce and to
Yeah.
really, let them just be kids, let them be teenagers, be flexible with each other, communicate, all of those things that you were just talking about, the importance of effective communication, talking about, when one of the children tells you something, telling the other spouse, but, not in a mean and degrading
Yeah.
way, but in a, hey,
Yeah.
what can we do to support them kind of way. And all of that I think really plays into that, the kids really feeling like, ah, I can breathe, my parents are both happy. And
Yeah.
if you're happy, if their parents are happy, then they're going to be happy, right? And I found the same thing,
100%.
even in my own separation, like with my 13-year-old at the time, he was like that too. He was just like, I'm happy, I feel free. I feel like,
Yeah.
I don't have to be walking on eggshells. We use that term a lot too, walking on eggshells, right? Is something I say or do going to upset mom or dad, or
Yeah.
are they in a bad mood? It's not like that. That is gone, because as hard as it is to heal from divorce, and like you said, the path to healing, that's that's a long journey, but
Yes.
you know when you're on that path, you're on the right path and the kids
Yeah.
sense it, right? So that's really,
Absolutely.
really beautiful. So tell me, in terms of, I know it's, it gets a little easier as they get older in some senses, but
Hmm.
when it comes to making important decisions for the children and things like that, like, post-secondary school education, things like that, have you guys sort of discussed how that's going to work, or how do you make those decisions?
Well, I think I start with, my children first, right? So Tomas off to college or university. So I think it really starts with the child, and then we work ourselves back to, okay, how do I support you and how does your dad support you? But it's not what we decide and then we're imposing it on you. Is this is your introduction into adulthood, right? And you still have us as parents to support you and guide you. But I really pass the baton on to my son. Is it, asking him the questions, is what is it that you'd like to do? What are you comfortable with? What other resources are available to you, like guiding counselors and teachers? And he's been really blessed with some great teachers and guidance counselors as well. So I really want to have him make that decision in terms of what it is that you want to do next, and let's work backwards on how do we get there. And then having the conversations with his dad as well, saying, okay, this is what has been decided. This is what I'm able to do. Um, you know, and not impose anything on anyone, right? Because he may be in another place in his life, his dad, and where we live and all that. So really just respecting everybody at where they're at in their life as well, as opposed to imposing demands and expectations, right?
I love that. Yeah, because you don't know where, you're going to be in 2 or 3 or 5 years, or where,
Yeah,
your ex-spouse is going to be in 2 or 3 or 5 years, and,
yeah,
what your children want to do. And I think it's so important. And again, it goes back to flexibility and, really letting the children have a say. Like you said, and your children are older too. So,
hmm,
yeah, it does make sense that they have a say in things like, obviously, their post-secondary education, but even things like their schedule and where they want to be on the weekend, or hey, I want to stay at dad's an extra week, is that okay? Like, I just think that's really, really beautiful.
yeah. And prior, while we separated and there was moments of clarity between their dad and I, we really, we spoke about these things. I don't want to have them change schools. So, I'll stay in the city where I'm at. And he doesn't live in the city, but he's made every effort to, drive them to school, pick them up. And again, there's meetings and then there's things, and then we're as flexible as we are with each other, without being cruel or unkind. Because again, that sits with you, and nobody wants that. And again, the kids may not hear the conversation, but I promise you they'll feel it, right? They'll, I'll be up and all tight and like wound up, and then they'll feel it from their dad too. And then again, and then I say to myself, well, I should have just stayed married. If it was ever gonna be like this, why not just stay married? At least I have two incomes. And then, you get wiser and you heal, and you just come back to, my kids deserve so much better than this. I deserve better than this, and their dad deserves happiness as well. We all deserve happiness, right? And it's obviously not together, but everyone deserves that and peace in their heart, right?
Absolutely. And that's such an important realization. And again, it's a mindset thing. It all comes back to your mindset. And you were able to do this, Linda, in a very short amount of time. I mean, like you said, you separated in March. And by, I believe you said September of
Yeah.
that year, you guys had a separation agreement in place. You had the parenting time arrangements. You resolved all of your financial issues. And I mean, and it was, significant. You'd been together a long time. This was a long-term marriage. It wasn't
Yeah.
like you were married 6 months. You guys were married,
Two
for many.
decades, over decades, yeah, or close
Yeah.
to 2 decades, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And in my experience, I mean, I've been in the family law realm now for 15 years. And I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything, a marriage lasting that long wrapped up that quickly and that amicably as well. And, with just such a beautiful outcome, for all of you. I just
Yeah.
think that's so amazing. Tell me a little bit. I know this is really important. It's something I
Hmm.
talk about all the time is support systems. Can you talk to
Yeah.
us just a little bit about your support system and maybe how that helped you and how people can sort of establish a support system when going through this?
Well, I've been blessed. I've got, great parents, and I've got, a great family and friends and coworkers as well. You know, I really tried to take the shame out of it. I'm thinking I'm just happen to be someone that is going through a separation and divorce. So when friends would, pick up on stuff, I was really, really honest with them, saying this is what I'm going through right now. And I didn't need anyone to solve my problems. And I remember saying that to some friends as well. I'm like, all I need is an ear. I don't need any advice and I don't need anyone to fix me because I'm not broken. I just need you to listen. Is that okay? Right? This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm feeling. Um, and they allowed for that space, right? And that's all anyone I think sometimes needs is to have that space. And I also reached out to my medical professionals as well. I've reached out to my doctor. For folks that are working, I reached out to my employee assistant program. Wherever I was able to find support that I needed, I took advantage of it and just talked, right? And I read the books and the podcasts, and I just took what resonated with me and the left the not everything made sense, or not everyone's journey mirrored my journey, when that was okay. I just took what made sense to me, and and then tried to live my own authentic self with that.
Love that. I love that, like the first thing you said is that you remove shame. There is
Yeah.
so much shame around divorce and separation. I mean, even after all this time, even though the divorce rates are like 50% at this point
some
across the
some folks say
country.
60, some folks say
Yep.
60. I've heard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And they're not decreasing, I'll tell
Yeah.
you that much.
Yeah.
But, there's so much shame still around divorce and separation. So many people are afraid, to reach out to family, friends, to go and get therapy or help or coaching or counseling. And I think that is so important, like you said, to remove the shame from it. Because once you remove the shame, that's when you heal, right?
Yeah.
That's when you really get the support that you need. The other thing that I love that you said, and this is a lot of people find it hard, even myself, I find it hard to do this, is asking for support, telling, somebody what you need. So, hey, I just really need you to listen right now. Or,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? Mom, I really need you to pick up the kids from karate today because I have to work late. Like
Yeah.
it's asking. It's just
Yeah.
asking for what you need because too many of us, moms especially, I find in my experience, try to do everything on their own. They keep everything inside and then they burst. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. I can't do this anymore. But I love that you said, in terms of seeking a support system, that you have to ask for what you need. Sometimes it's just somebody holding space.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just somebody to listen to you and just to, yeah, you're not going to say the nasty things about your ex to your kids, but maybe you need to vent. Maybe something
Yeah.
happened and you just need to vent, and that's okay. We all do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that just reminds me, even like sharing with my kids' friends' parents, right? They're like, oh, they'd always see us together at soccer, and just, being very humble, not, and again, taking the shame and just being honest, saying their dad and I are no longer together. Um, I may be in a pickle sometime. Can I get your number so I can, and here's my number too, if I can bring anyone to soccer or pick anyone up, but I may be in a pickle sometimes. Would you be able to help? And I don't think anyone's ever said no to that, because, this is a community and you build your community, right? These are my children, these are their friends. And, I know I would do the same. And regardless if someone is separated, divorced, in a marriage, like, it's a community and you have to build your community and you have to ask, right?
You have to
And
ask.
people are more than willing to, like, oh, anything you need, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, it's just pickup. Sometimes I just may be late, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just you, like you said, you just have to ask. And a lot of
Yeah,
women, I find, myself included at times,
yeah,
you don't want to ask because you feel like, well, maybe I'm burdening them and I
yeah,
you don't want to, but actually, people actually feel really good when they can help you with
yeah,
something. People genuinely want to help. At least those
yeah.
are the people you want to be around, are the ones who,
Exactly.
and if they're
Exactly.
not the type of person who wants to help and wants to be supportive, then maybe those aren't the people for you, right?
Exactly. So you find a lot of stuff out, but I've been really blessed, and I think it's been my approach too. I'm not looking for anyone to be my studio therapist. I've got a therapist. Um, I don't need any advice. I just, if I ever want to share, and if you ever want to ask, this has been my journey, right? And I take out, along with the hate, I also take out the shame. I also take out the hate and the victimization, because none of us are victims in this. We just happen to be no longer a match for each other, and we've realized that. And let's just, continue working on our personal journey, and, finding our own path, right? So I find that people are receptive to that, like what you're bringing to the conversation, right? Is if you're bringing kindness and love and an explanation, as opposed to, you know, and he did this and she did that and this is, can you believe that? Like, no. Maybe that's better suited for your journal, or that's better suited for your therapist, but, friends and family really just want to love and support you and see you happy, right? So, you got to bring that to the conversation as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, that you don't want to go in with a victim mindset. When you
Yeah.
go in with a victim mindset, that's what you're attracting, right? You
Yeah.
want people to, feel sorry for you, or,
Yeah.
but that's not the right way to go into it. Like you said, a relationship is with two people. Both people have a part to play in the separation,
Yeah.
and you're right, sometimes it's just not a match, but
Yeah.
you can't blame other people. We find this in the legal world all the time, as people will come to us and they're like very angry and very bitter, and they kind of almost start taking it out on the legal professional. But
Mm,
the reality of the situation is, you were the one, in the situation, you were the one living with this person, and you have to take some personal accountability, responsibility for that. You can't put that on somebody else. Yes, you can vent. Yes, you can, have a support system there to hear you out and listen, but at the end of the day, your mindset is everything. Your mindset is really, a positive mindset is what's going to get you through this in a much
yeah.
healthier, much more holistic way. And I just love what you said about that. And on that note too, and I found this personally, I don't know if you found this, but when you're going through this journey, and especially the self-healing journey, as you're going through separation, I found that I lost a lot of my friends along the way, or at least people that I thought were my friends.
Mm.
Did you find that too, that you were?
I've been blessed. I've been really blessed that, and a lot of my friends have been couples, like that we all knew each other. And I'm just so grateful that no one took sides. But we also, when we shared with folks, we never expected anyone to take sides either, right?
It's a great approach.
And um, yeah, we've been really blessed that everyone has supported us the best way that they know how, right? Because they loved us, and and we've had friends say to us separately, "We're just as devastated, if possible, as you are. Like, you know, you've been our friends for, over 2 decades, and we love you, and whatever it is we can do for you to support you separately, then we're here for you." So I've been really blessed that way, and I believe he has too, that no one has slandered the other person or anything of that sort, because that's not really needed. That no one needs to know any personal details. It's just not helpful to anyone, right?
Yeah.
So I've been blessed that I've had folks reach out and say, whatever it is that you need, I'm here for you. And And if that means, letting you deal with this on your own, if that's what you're asking for, because I didn't need a lot of isolation too, because I had to figure this out for myself. Um, you know, they were there for me. And even folks at work could tell something was up. And again, it took the shame out of it. I'm like, this is what's going on in my life right now. I'm a whole person. I'm not just Linda, you know, talent acquisition professional. I just have, I'm Linda, the whole thing. I'm a mom. I'm now separated. I'm going, towards divorce. I bring my whole self to work. But I still am a professional, but they were so kind and so generous, and again, allowed for that space just to let me chat and just say, this is what's going on today. This is what's going on today. And, when you bring that, you realize that people want to share their stories too. And, they're like, I appreciate your authenticity. This is what happened while I was growing up, or this was what my journey was 5 years ago. And they're encouraging, right? And maybe I'll be able to pass the baton on one day to anyone else that needs that support. But I've been really blessed with the friendships that I've had. Because again, it starts with the authenticity and saying this is where I'm at. I'm not going to pretend to be something that I'm not. I'm going to have good days. I'm going to have bad days, but this is where I am right now.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you said, I'm the whole person. I'm not just the professional, because again, a lot of times as women with the shame, we like
Yeah,
to go in and we like to just, put our mask on at work and we sit down and we do our job. But when we can't be our authentic selves, I don't think we perform as well even at our jobs. I believe that, to be a mom and a professional, you have to be your authentic self. You have to
yeah,
be a full expression of who you are because you're not just a professional, and
yeah,
there are things and life is messy and it's
yeah,
great to be able to go in and be who you are and to have people who are, at the workplace who can support you and say, hey,
yeah.
what's going on? And to talk to them. So that's really beautiful. Again, I love just the whole mindset that you bring to this. And I think it's just truly honorable the way that you've done this and the way that you and your ex-spouse have handled the separation. So just on a final note before we wrap up, what kind of advice would you give to, a mom in your situation, a professional mom who's, maybe just at the beginning stages of their separation, who has kids, who again wants to have a child-focused divorce? What kind of tips or advice can you offer to someone in your position?
I think it's reminding that person of why you've chosen to separate and divorce. And maybe it wasn't your choice, but it's something that you have to accept. And to really remind yourself that you are emulating to your children, regardless if you see it or not. You're their role model, right? You are a role model, right? um, and to be honest with your children and with yourself, right? And to include them as much as possible in healthy discussion, as this is where our life is right now, and this is how we're going to move forward, right? This is we're gonna do it together. And it's not perfect. There is no blueprint. Like, what works for me isn't gonna work for the next person. However, just to really keep focused of what is important, and it is to keep walking forward and not to live in the past and not to hope what the future is going to look like, and because we can't predict that, but we can, what do we have right now and how do we move forward, right? And that's always with grace in your heart and always with kindness. And we'll get through this. And if you have to, and when you need that support, you ask for it. Friends, families, neighbors, 9 times out of 10 people really do want to help. um, and just just ask for the support that you need. And then be kind to yourself as well, just to really be kind, right? I know I was very judgmental of myself too, like, oh my God, I had said all this, I thought it was going to be all perfect, and I stumbled and I fell, and then I got really down on myself, because I had this ideal of what this was going to look like. And then I thought, you know what, that's, you know I'm a human being, okay? So I stumbled and I fell, and you just pick yourself up again, and then you walk forward, right?
Absolutely. Self-compassion is so
Yeah,
important and it's something that is so hard. It's like, why is it we can be so compassionate with our friends and our family and people we love, yet when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to, judging ourselves, we're the most critical. We're highly critical, right? And
yes,
that's something I've also had to work on. It's
yeah,
tough, developing that self-compassion, but that's definitely so important. And I think when we talk about self-care, self-compassion is a big part of that.
absolutely.
It's really
Absolutely.
beautiful. No, that's really, I just think, again, the way that you've handled this is beautiful. I think you're going to be an inspiration to other women who are in the same position as you going through this. I wish we could just copy your mindset and just, just give it to everyone, I sprinkle that everywhere. It's beautiful the way that you've really managed to. As I say, a lot of people want to have a child-focused divorce, but you've actually done it. You've done it, and you're an example for other moms going through it. And I just think the way you've done it is really beautiful.
Thank you
So
so much, Andrea. Thank you for having me on.
you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Linda. And thank you again for being a part of From Breakup to Breakthrough. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay, take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.